Next, we'll talk about lines that are parallel or perpendicular. Parallel lines are lines that will never cross each other. They will never intersect. They, kind of run at the same rate, like the rails on a railroad track. So those two lines will never cross each other. Otherwise, that would be really bad for the train. Lines that are perpendicular intersect at right angles or at 90-degree angles. Again, note that we're using that little box to remind us that that means it's 90 degrees. There are some special angles that are formed when we have two lines that are parallel that are intersected by another line. And so notice that these two lines are parallel, and you will often see to know that they are parallel, and I don't have red as one of my colors on my marker here, but typically you'll see these in red, but they'll be like little arrows that show that those two lines are parallel. Those are supposed to be arrows. So the first pair or the first type of angle that is formed is called vertical angles. And vertical angles are formed whenever any two lines intersect. They don't have to be parallel lines. But vertical angles are angles that are basically across the vertex from one another. So 1 and 4 are across the vertex, so they're vertical angles. 2 and 3, 5 and 8, 6 and 7, etc. So those are all vertical angles because they're across the vertex. And what we know about vertical angles is they are congruent. So if I told you that this was 120 degrees, you could tell me that 4 was also 120 degrees. Alternate interior angles are our next angle pairs. Those are obviously interior, meaning they're between the two parallel lines, and they're on opposite sides of the line that divides them. So angle 3 and angle 6. And when I use a little line like this, that means angle 3 and angle 6 are congruent because alternate interior angles are congruent. Angle 4 and angle 5 are also alternate interior. They are congruent to each other, but they're not congruent to 3 and 6. So notice I'm using two lines instead of one. So 3 and 6, 4 and 5. Alternate exterior angles are very similar to those, except of course they are exterior, meaning they are on the outside. And so angle 1 and angle 8 would be alternate exterior because they're on opposite sides of the line and outside of the vertical or outside of the parallel lines. And then 2 and 7 would be our other pair because they are outside of the parallel lines. Again, we know that alternate exterior angles are congruent, so 1 and 8 have the same measure and 2 and 7 have the same measure. The last type of angle that is formed here are called corresponding angles, and corresponding angles are angles that are in the same position in relationship to the lines. So notice angle 1 is the sort of top left of the 4, and so is angle 5. Angle 1 and angle 5 are corresponding, and they are congruent. And then 2 and 6 would be 3 and 7, 4 and 8. So in this picture, we are given that the measure of angle 1 is 110 degrees, and we need to find everything else. So if angle 1 is 110, I could say angle 4 is 110 because it's a vertical angle. So 110. I could say angle 5 is 110 because that's alternate interior to angle 4. So that's 110 also. I could say angle 8 is 110 because it's alternate exterior to 1. So those are all 110. How would I find the measure of the other angle? Well, this is a straight line, which is 180 degrees. So that means this must be 70 because these two are supplementary. So angle 2 is 70 because it's supplementary to angle 1. And then of course 3 would also be 70 because it's vertical. And 6 would also be 70 because it's alternate interior. And 7 would be 70 because it's vertical to 6 or alternate exterior to 2 or corresponding to 3, however you want to say it. Here's one for you to try on your own. So try all questions and then press play to see how you did. In this question, we're given the measure of angle 2 is 60 degrees. So if 2 is 60, that means 3 is 60, 6 is 60, and 7 is 60. The other 4 angles are all congruent to each other as well. To find their measure, I would subtract 180 minus 60 to get 120, which means all of those are 120 for a variety of reasons.